I'm with John Jeckovich, super soldier from World War II,
Super
highly
soldier.
decorated. Went in as a teenager, came out a man, shot up with machine guns and still has shrapnel in his body. Never start talking about the war until 2 years ago, pushing 99. And we're going to read this book he wrote. It's called Their Mother's Sons. He wrote this book about 20 years ago, and every night we read a different chapter. And there's 900 pages, so there's a lot to read. Right now, as I start reading, we're just watching Mr. John Jeckovich look at a book of convertible cars, which he loves old cars. And if you have any comments on the cars, Mr. Jeckovich, just interrupt me and tell me about them. So, he takes a licking and keeps on ticking. So give me your dog tag number and I'll begin. Give me your dog tag number and I'll begin.
What?
Your dog tag number, please.
4292965.
Okay, here we go. I'm on chapter 5 of his book, Getting to Know You, and on page 93. This is when he's at Fort Breckenridge in Indiana, and he takes weekend passes to Owensboro, Kentucky, and he met a fine girl there named Ann. Actually, Mr. Jeckovich was lost looking for the bus leaving Owensboro to go back to Fort Breckenridge, and he got sidetracked. He ended up in a residential neighborhood way far away from the bus station, and he asked these two girls who were sitting on their porch, where is the bus station? And he hit it off nice with both of them, and they said, hell, let me just drive you. And from there it became much to call the romance of the century. So here we go, Getting to Know You. It was not until we heard the announcer on the radio introduce the news at 2300 hours that we realized how we'd forgotten about the snack Ann had prepared, and we had to clean the kitchen. I presided to pick up the broken glass on the floor as Ann set up our snack on the table. The cake she had baked as deflated, but neither one of us were in the mood for it. We settled for just coffee. I reminded Ann that I had to get the last bus at 0100 hours, and she nodded in agreement. We hurriedly finished straightening the kitchen, and after she went quickly into the downstairs bathroom to freshen up.
What was that, Dave?
You and Ann are getting into the bus station so you're not late. Apparently some type of glass broke on the kitchen floor and you guys are cleaning it up. As we drove to the bus station, I sat close to her, which made it difficult for her to shift. I also put my hand on her knee and began talking to her and kissed her on the cheek. She reminded me that the nylons are hard and that she did not have too many pairs left, hard to get. I told her that I would give her several pairs of the PX and ask her what size she wore. She remarked that she was a size 7. We reached the bus station at 24:30 hours, which provided us some time to sit and talk. I did not think I'd get the pass for the next weekend, and I said rather reluctantly, I've had 2 in a row already. I know, she said rather despondently. I'll miss you, but I'll have a lot of schoolwork to do, which will keep me busy until I see you again. What do you think of the overnight pass, I asked, one in which I'd have to be back to camp at 0500 hours. It doesn't give you much time, she related, but it's a thought. I then asked what's the best time to reach her on weekdays. She replied after 2100 hours when she returned from school. I reached over and kissed her and took her hand and squeezed it gently. She looked at me and sighed gently. What are we going to do? We don't have any time to be together, she laminated, and taking my hand and holding it firmly. I was concerned that she could not call me when she got home tonight, as I would still be on the bus. She told me to call when I arrived at camp, even if it is late. I agreed and hoped would not waken her mother. She began to fidget with the ends of her long hair, and I knew it was her way of relieving the tension that was building in both of us. I would take her hand away from her hair and gently kiss it. She would then raise it to her lips and hold it for a moment. Her hand was warm and softness of an exciting touch. Just then the bus pulled into the station. I looked for my gym bag and got out of the car and walked over to the side and quickly stood there. I thought how fortunate I was. I did not know my future, but my present was extremely favorable. I tried to instill in my mind a mental picture of Anne as she stood there with me until the next time we'd see one another. Are you seeing anything interesting in the book?
Huh?
You seen anything interesting in the classic car book?
No, they're all convertibles.
Yeah, you like them?
Well, they look flexible.
Yeah.
Rambler. Sales will fire pubic three. Ha ha ha. Yeah, those converters were bigger than 69, 68, huh? Woodies.
Do I do a mail call?
Not yet. When we get down a little bit, 5 minutes till the end. Okay?
I'm trying to do something to make up time. Tired.
Did you read yet?
Yeah, I have a couple pages.
Come on.
Look how beautiful Amber looks with her sister. They look like twins, for Christ's sakes. Look at that. They're like 14 years apart. Look how close they look in age.
Oh, yeah.
Look at how close they look in age.
Yeah.
She's so happy, I guess.
Oh, good.
'64, huh?
And there was no one else on the bus. The driver was waiting for me to board the bus. We both realized this. I hugged her for a moment, then kissed her goodbye. There were tears in her eyes, and I felt saddened. I whispered I would try to see you as soon as possible. She kissed me again and said she was very much wanted to be with me. I slipped out my arms and boarded the bus. As the bus pulled away, I looked back. I could still see her standing there. At the moment, I perceived the concept that this person cares for me as much as I care for her. I looked what a great experience to share together. I wanted to be with her forever, but understood that was not going to happen, at least for the present. We had only known each other for comparatively a short period of time. Somehow we managed to overcome the shortness of time, acquired the fierce mutual attraction to one another, and then quickly a deep and loving affection for each other. This quickly matured into abiding immutable love for one another. Would it sustain itself through the trying times ahead of us? No one can predict the final outcome, but I believe that it would. What I had not given much thought was, what would be the reaction of my mother to the relationship that Ann and I created? I know Ann's mother had concurred favorably with our relationship, and I have no misgivings that she perceived me in a positive way. I knew she approved of me, and Ann also surmised the same conclusion. I'm afraid my mother would not take such a positive attitude, despite what she thought of Ann and our relationship. I could not conceive of Ann living in a close proximity to my mother. For the matter of fact, my sister, that would not be a favorable situation, to say the least. For the present, I did not want those thoughts to be cast a dark cloud on a near horizon. I resolved to create a positive attitude and bond that Ann and I developed, and not worrying about the distant future. The next few days were hellish for me. I had both Sergeant Baker and Sergeant Flood screaming at me constantly. How was Sergeant Baker?
Sergeant Baker?
How was he?
He's a rebel.
Was he a good sergeant?
He talked to him, he had shit in his mouth all the time. Christ.
Yeah, I guess she told it exactly what you thought.
Huh?
I guess she told it exactly
Sergeant
like you
Baker.
thought.
He wasn't a leader or nothing. He's an
How did he
old,
become
old
sergeant?
farm town guy.
How did he become sergeant?
Huh?
How did he become sergeant?
He got in when they went to maneuvers.
Did he go overseas?
I didn't see him. I didn't see him in our outfit.
All right, so Sergeant Baker was not a pretty good guy. How was Sergeant Flood?
Flood was good, yeah.
Flood, what happened to Flood?
Flood stayed with us, and all of a sudden he got sick or something. He left, or his wife got sick. I don't know. When he
much
left, he never
older?
came back.
Was he much older?
No, he was 20, 21, 22.
Okay. The next few days were hellish for me. I had both Sergeant Baker and Sergeant Flood screaming at me constantly. I not only fouled up the training exercise in the field, but I also screwed up an inspection detail over a crew weapon. I could not concentrate on anything else but Ann. I would close my eyes and see Ann, standing there in all her radiant beauty. I started to perform a military task, and I'd go off on a tangent with Ann as a focal point of my thoughts. I told myself I must snap out of it, or I would get a reputation as a follow-up, something that would be disdainful to me. I knew that, but the problem was Ann. I have never cared for a person so much in my life, I didn't know how to handle it. I would have to work on it, and perhaps not seeing her for a time would be the best solution for the present. Mel? Malcolm? Did you get the mail yet?
Yeah. We got a postcard, John.
Where from? Mail call.
I don't know where. Looks like Germany.
Mail call. They just come now?
Yeah.
Greetings from Strasbourg, that's in Germany.
You were there, right?
Yeah. Love your show.
Is watching everywhere.
Gretchen K. Cool.
What's that thing in the middle do?
That gives you different parts of the car.
Okay.
Strasbourg.
How was Strasbourg? Was it nice?
Typical German town. clean, clean. They're all clean.
Clean, yeah.
Clean. Gretchen Cole. Gretchen Cole. That's a good name.
Richard
name.
Cole, yeah.
Boy.
You want me to put it in the book for you?
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Okay.
Over here, I'll put it with the rest of them. The
Huh?
book's getting full of your postcards. Getting very full.
That's a cool little card.
Let's see it. Oh, I see. It puts some pictures on the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's something. Oh, wow. Right above the altar. That is cool.
That's in Germany.
Astronomical clock in Strasbourg. Built in 1352.
What?
That clock was built in 1352.
Yeah. Tower clock.
The clock includes a perpetual calendar. It calculates the phase of the moon, eclipse of the sun, and a rising setting of the sun. In a sphere are painted the stars visible each day in Strasbourg.
Strasbourg, yeah.
The clock regulates itself automatically every year during the night of December 31st and January 1st. It takes into account the leap year and places the holidays in their respective places. Wow, what an amazing thing. Wow. Wow. That's really amazing. I'll put it in the book for you right here. The battalion was going on a 2-day bivouac under simulated combat conditions. We would try to duplicate the actual battlefield situations with an aggressor force, which in actuality consisted of soldiers from another regiment. The company was driven several miles from camp and dropped off in a staging area, the jumping off point for our exercise. We received our instructions and the mission assigned to our platoon. Our task was to reconductor to the area 7 miles in depth and report an enemy activity. Also to seize the strategically held town used by the enemy as an observation facility. Our section was to aid in the occupation of the town and give support to Fox Company, which was to make the initial assault and set up a secure perimeter around the town, keeping enemy forces out. We came up on the objective that Fox Company planned the method of attack. We were detached to one platoon of the company to give supporting fire, which made the assault. Sergeant Flood placed our 4 machine guns in a field of fire pattern to give the maximum support to the attacking rifle platoon. At the designated time of departure, the entire operation kicked off and it appeared that everything went well. We were naturally firing blanks. So far at the time, there was a great deal of noise and confusion, and there was under the real thing combat. I became so engrossed in exercise that a while my mind was taken off of Anne. I became so engrossed in exercise that for a while my mind was taken off of Anne. We performed our segment of the operation flawlessly, and Captain Goodnight even complimented us personally. How was Captain Goodnight?
I was Captain Goodnight. I didn't ever see him. I know he left us before we went in.
So when you went to the front line, all these guys aren't there.
No.
Only the foot soldiers, teenagers.
All the stupid 33s. All the 33s were there.
What do you mean by 13? Teenagers?
Yeah, 19 years old. Yeah.
19. Sergeant Flood was pleased as expected. He remarked to me that I was back to my old self as I did a good job and said to keep up the good work. Sergeant Flood favored me to an extent,
9 minutes.
as I did what is expected of me. I did not need too much supervision, but usually took an initiative and followed through with assigned tasks. He often told me that if I keep my nose clean and my mouth shut, I would amount to something in this man's army. In this man's army. I knew for a fact that before I had started to follow up, I was only on a short list for any possible promotion. That night, as we ate chow from the field kitchen set up in a small hollow, I thought about my life in the Army. It had been good to me considering everything in my past life. But where but in the Army could I have done all that I've experienced up to now? At home, I'd probably be still working for Quarrysdale, going home at night and concentrating on the immediate family. Strangely enough, I had not thought of my mother and sister for the longest period of time. I thought of them now in a more quiet, serene manner and did not postulate constantly about them, what they were doing and how they were coping without me being there. Now it was considerably changed. Thought about Anne and my desire to be with her. Granted, it did not lose my feelings for my mother and my sister, but it seemed my priority had been shifting somewhat. We were posted on the perimeter around our encampment around 0200 to 0600 hours watch. We had dug our gun into a large emplacement to accompany 2 men manning it, and so they would be ready to go into immediate action should the situation warrant it. Besides me in the emplacement was Private First Class Goki. How was Goki? Private First Class.
That's the guy that wound up in the hospital.
Oh yeah? An ammo barrel for our squad. He joined the division while on maneuvers in Louisiana and still had not registered himself to be in the Army. He was attending University of Massachusetts when he was drafted and eventually wound up in the ASTP at the University of South Carolina. We believe that he would complete his tour of duty in the Army with a university degree granted to the United States government and then be on his way to a lucrative paying civilian job. That was one to the big push for combat troops in the Pacific and Europe changed his plans forever. Although Goki was a good guy, but he was in his intelligent, like all fellow soldiers, he came out of ASTP or Air Corps, tended to herd together, even though he was out of the same rank as the rest of us. The Air Corps have an order of elitism about them, which I attribute to the excess of the Army prior to their transfer to the infantry. It remained to be seen what we would do in combat. The one striking thing about Goki was, I remember that he was dating a girl in Owensboro. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Goki was dating a girl.
Yeah, he used to take the bus back and forth every weekend, and I didn't know it. I never seen him.
The same time I was seeing Ann. I was never aware of it. We never met on the bus going from Owensboro, nor did we meet anywhere in Owensboro. Although I did not communicate my interest in my visits to anyone at Owensboro, my frequent trips were sufficiently well known by the rest of the platoon. Goki, for some reason known to only himself, did not want to share his experiences with me. It was only after I received a letter from Leip's mother in which she mentioned Goki and his marriage to a girl in Goki.
Yeah, he was in Owensboro most of the time I never seen him.
And he married a girl in Owensboro.
Yeah.
Did become aware of the entire situation. I was stationed in Germany toward the end of the war when I received this information. At that moment, we both heard of a snap of a twig in our front. Halt, I shouted. I prepared to release a flare. Give the password. Prince Valiant was the reply. It was Sergeant Flood searching on our position and, quite frankly, seeing if we're awake. Minutes?
5.
He told us it would be light soon, the kitchen was moving up, and we could expect a hot breakfast. He also stated that after breakfast, we would be ready to move out to our new position farther west of here. The rest of the night was uneventful, and the short time we were waiting with our mess kits for kitchen to finish, setting up to serve chow. It would invariably be shit on a shingle, my favorite breakfast meal in the Army. It's considered several slices of bread with a thick creamy sauce and spread on top. The sauce was the heart of the dish, was made with chipped beef, cream mixture.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Is that what you liked?
Yeah.
And as usual, the coffee was hot and tasted good after we had spent all night in an earthen dugout. We dosed our mess kits and eating utensils in several large garbage cans of boiling water, dried them out, and served them back into our light packs. We were ready to move out and commence the second phase of our operation. Several miles beyond our last point, we were given the objective of seizing and holding a critical bridge in the surrounding approaches. We gave firing support to Fox Company, which was masking the initial assault. At one point, we were flanked out by enemy sources. We had to call on artillery and mortar fire to suppress them. It was all seemed realistic as we went through the exercise as though we were in actual combat. I was to find out differently.
Yeah, they killed one guy in that exercise.
Yeah, oh wow. Jim?
3.
The rest of the day was pretty much the same. Hold and secure and hold until we relieved, with the Credos was operated under Sergeant Baker stayed pretty much in the background and let Sergeant Floyd coordinate our gun position. He eased up on me largely because I had recovered my composure relative to Ann and was not screwing up anymore. He also had an excellent relationship with Sergeant Flood, his immediate authority, and did not want to jeopardize our position. The night we slept in the slit trenches we had dug in the ground. What they were basically were shallow type graves, long enough to lie down in, and we would put our shelter halves on the bottom of the trench and use our sleeping bags to sleep in. It was very uncomfortable, and luckily it did not rain, but with the night dampness, it was enough to get you wet all over. I shaved once in a while when we were out in the field, and that was a warm water out of the steel helmet. There were no showers or toilet facilities. We dug a small slit for an entrenching shovel. It was rough duty, but a young in body as well as spirit, we managed to live through it. As far as I was concerned, was an exercise futility. I suspect that the situation would have been entirely different under actual combat. I think the enemy would have had something to say about it, and most certainly would not be cavalier attitude displayed here as we're actually firing live rounds at you, but the artillery shells or small arms fire. Also, platoon leader, Lieutenant Conti. How was Lieutenant Conti? Lieutenant Conti, how was he?
He was a young Terry from New York City.
Was he a good lieutenant?
Yeah, college kid.
Was with the entire time, but Captain Goodnight and other officers were not present during the exercise. It was rumored they had gone back to camp the first night and were enjoying the comforts of camp life while we're being subject to this moronic exercise. 1 minute. Mm-hmm. I also noticed the colonel who was giving the critique that morning was starched, fatigued, and freshly shaved. I do not think he slept in a slit trench the night before.
And what?
You said the colonel who gave remarks the next morning was in starched fatigues and cleanly shaved. You said, I don't think he slept in the slit trenches the night before.
Yeah, he slept in some hotel.
Frankly, I was not too concerned. The old adage, rank has its privilege, certainly was true here. I just wanted to get back to camp, clean up, call in, and this was Thursday, and I had not had a chance to call her since I seen her last Sunday. The trucks were waiting for us in the staging area to take us back to camp. We all appeared disheveled and tattered for full days and nights in the field.
What are you doing?
Time.
Huh?
I was telling
Time.
him to hurry up.